Greetings, I am John Spirit. I am no longer using a potato for a computer, and welcome to Factorio Pyanodons Supershorts. In this episode, we'll be working on better power production. By the way, I'm researching iron processing. Actually, scratch that, let's research the cooling tower first for certain steam-related purposes. In Pyanodons, one of the great methods of power is using combustion mixture, which you can create from various gases. For example, you can use coal gas or syngas, which we could create from wood, or you can use a cheap hydrogen loop with a bunch of excess oxygen for iron, although I wouldn't suggest using it as your primary oxygen supply unless you have access to circuits, which I don't have yet. To that end, I'm going to install fluid handling as soon as possible, so I can make use of valves. And barreling. There's one major reason I probably don't want to use a bunch of tree farms for power, and it's because I don't really want to make a ton of trees right now. But I think I'm going to change the recipe to produce trees so that I can just get a stock of trees over time. Hydrogen will make us 520 degrees Celsius combustion mixture. Take this with a grain of salt, but to calculate the amount of power that a combustion turbine will make with a particular combustion mixture, you can take its max output, which in this case is 24.82 megawatts, and multiply by the fraction of the temperature that your combustion mixture is. So in this case, 52% of the max output is what we're going to get from our 520 degrees Celsius combustion mixture. So basically, every 60 combustion mixture per second will grant me 13 megawatts. To get 26 megawatts of power, minus 2.67 megawatts of power, I'll need 2.8 biomass per second, and then the water is trivial. If I make it 300, I get really neat numbers, so this is the system I'm going to set up. It won't actually use 7.2 biomass per second, although I can support it because this optimal wood system will produce 17.4 biomass per second if all the wood is turned to biomass, but it could sustain it. Back to iron processing. To build my powerhouses, I'm going to need lead. Combustion turbines are fine though, I'll make 5 of those right now. Let's see what it takes to make 30 acetylene per second. I'm going to research coke processing real quick so I can get a better recipe for coke from coal, because my acetylene system requires a good amount of coke and I would rather get it from coal at a better ratio. I was hoping to use wood to make the coal, but 3.75 items per second is suboptimal considering that we're not even making that much in our optimal wood section right now. We'll need to make more of them. So instead we'll make it straight up from raw coal, which is a lot of raw coal per second. Like 12 mining drills of coal, bad. So, it sounds like it's going to be in my best interest to duplicate this system a couple times. But hey, that's what it's made for. For now, we'll just bootstrap. Since we have this temporary surplus of extra coke, we're just going to use that. And making 10 acetylene per second will only require, 1 coke per second. It won't last us forever, but we just need a bunch of lead, so. Looks like I can support 4 of these mining drills, so we'll get lots of lead very quickly. To supply 600 water to the system per second, we'll only need 2 pump jacks. 1 pump jack corresponds to 4 electrolyzers, and 4 electrolyzers correspond to 3 powerhouses. The steam from powerhouses can be recycled directly into the same amount of water required to create that steam. But it requires so many cooling towers, which require so much duralumin, and I don't really have that much duralumin right now that I'm not going to waste my time on it. We'll just use 2 pump jacks per system and vent the steam gas. Time for raw coal processing. I'll supply biomass using requesters and chutes. Note, powerhouses require solid fuel, so biomass is being used for that as well. I'm venting steam using gas vents. And now I've connected up my 5 combustion turbines to both systems. As soon as we start having issues with power, I'll connect these combustion turbines up and this self-sustaining system will begin, although I'll still need more forest trees for more wood because I'm not using that much biomass. Next project for today will be to improve our iron and copper processing. To get better flow control, I'm going to research automation 2 so I can grab the fluid handling. We'll start with copper because it's easier. Right now we can make it from copper grade 2, which we can make from copper grade 1 and from copper ore. This gives us a ratio of 5 ore to every 1 copper plate once we use the matrix solver. A total of 10 mining drills making 5 copper ore per second would give us a grand total of 1 copper plate per second, which I think is pretty good. All it takes is a bunch of weird machines and a whole lot of engine units. I've created a mall here that will take iron and copper and plug some aluminum into this engine unit machine, and it will make lots and lots of engine units. Iron gets fed into the gears and the sticks get fed into the bolts, and the bolts get fed into the small parts with everybody else. Copper goes into the small parts, iron goes into the pipes, and both of those go into the engine unit. It's fun to make little clusters like this. I like doing spaghetti with inserters, so if you ever have the time. The one problem is this isn't fully ratioed up. The engine units take a lot more time to build than any other part of the system, but it will suffice while we build other things. Luckily for my sanity, I had a bunch of extra engine units from the system I took down, which made making 2 automatic screeners, 2 jaw crushers, and 2 casting units supremely easy. Just researching some tin processing. Behold, our prototype slightly asymmetrical because reasons, copper system. When we feed copper into these automated screeners, splitters with output priorities will pull the copper grade 1 into these jaw crushers. The stone will be pulled by, again, output priority splitters into stone furnaces to be smelted into stone bricks. Biomass is being requested by this requester chest to fuel them both, while the copper grade 2 joins the other copper grade 2 to enter these casting units and be smelted into copper, which will land in this passive provider chest. The system is working like a charm and producing us our 1 copper per second. And now for iron. I want a little more steel, so I'm not going to go for 1 iron per second, but maybe like 2 or 3. In order to use the molten iron recipes, I'm going to need borax, so I'm going to pause that for now and instead use the processed iron ore recipes. This little system I have here right now is making 2.4 iron per second, which means that this isn't really a market improvement, and it's also kind of really huge. And I technically don't have ore problems right now because I've created these ore patches to have a lot of ore in them. So what I'm going to do is leave the system as it is for now. Gasp. And I'm just going to produce 1 system that's going to make 1 iron per second, which will give me a steel every 10 seconds, which I think would be most preferable. So here's what I have. I have iron ore going from these sets of electric mining drills, which is slightly too many. I only need 10 mining drills for this, and they're getting split and chuted into 2 jaw crushers, which produce stone and processed iron ore. These chutes are pulling it out. They're dumping the stone into these 2 furnaces, which are making stone bricks, and that's getting dumped out onto this passive provider chest. And of course, they're being supplied with biomass, because I just have this pretend infinite surplus of biomass, which I don't really have, but it's fine. Meanwhile, the processed iron ore is all getting dumped onto one side of each of these belts, and that's being picked up by these inserters and put into these advanced foundries, which use more power, but I'm able to make power more efficiently, especially with my combustion turbine mix, and my power's still doing fine right now. I can handle another 10 megawatts, so it's fine. That iron's all getting put onto the other side of the belt, and it's being picked up into the steel, and that steel is just dumping directly and asymmetrically into this passive provider chest, and that's fine. All in all, I'm really happy with the symmetry of this build. Once again, for the millionth time, my tar and syngas system has inexplicably clogged up, and I don't understand what is going on, or where it's going, or what's gunking up the system, because, I don't know, I thought my calculations were fine. But I'm just gonna dump the tar, and that'll start everything working again. I really don't know why this isn't working, but I will make a new system soon enough anyway. In fact, syngas is probably something I'll be reworking for the next episode, because I'd like to get borax, I think, to improve iron even more. I don't know why I'd like to improve iron even more when I already have enough iron, but I think it's cool to create the new systems for the different metals and things. I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, so hopefully you do as well. But yes, in the next episode, we'll likely work on borax, which requires some syngas, and sand casting, which requires creosote and some tar processing. And there are some neat ways to make tar that actually don't require you to do the whole weird distillation thing where you also get coal gas at the same time, which can be really uncomfortable. So we're going to play with drilling fluid and small parts, which it's a good thing we've made copper and iron. For now, however, that's it for today's episode. I apologize for the stuttering. I'm on a new computer and I cannot figure out why OBS is doing this, even though it's a really good graphics card. I'm really confused. Like, you can see that my frames per second is 60 frames per second. So if anyone has any ideas to reduce the stuttering, I would really appreciate it. I know it's going to be a while before this episode comes out, so I'm going to be uploading even more episodes, so it's going to be a while before you get this information, so I hope you can bear with the stuttering, and if you cannot, I apologize deeply. As always, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. I hope you enjoyed, and God bless you all.